Backstage at the National Theatre in Beijing, one of opera's finest bass baritones prepares himself for a performance of his one-man show.
I'm a crazy guy, especially before I step on stage. Yeah, I can go crazy in the dressing room.
But this is certainly not a first for Tian Hao Jiang. He's thrilled audiences around the world with the power of his voice thousands of times. From his first role in Puccini's opera, Girl from the Golden West, to playing opposite operatic superstar Placido Domingo in The Force of Destiny. However, his path to stardom was an unlikely one. Born into a musical family in Beijing during Mao Zedong's communist rule, at just 15, he was forced to work in a factory and embrace revolutionary life.
Back at the factory, I would perform revolutionary songs like a model worker. Even today, these popular revolutionary songs instantly would take our generation back to our youth, to those bitter, sweet years.
But as the 70s rolled around and Mao's grip loosened, Tian fought to study music in Beijing and then in America, where he would see his first ever opera starring Luciano Pavarotti. 10 years later, to the day, Tian would share the limelight with the opera icon.
Meister.
This week, Talk Asia's Stan Grant is in Beijing with Tian Hao Jiang as he takes us on his journey from life under Mao to the world's biggest operatic stages and back to China, where he opens up about the death of his brother and why their friendship inspired his latest show.
Welcome to Talk Asia.
Hi.
You know, I don't even know where to start with your story. It's the most extraordinary story. But one thing really jumps out at me, and that is a moment when you applauded, cheered, when your piano lessons came to an end, especially when your piano teacher was sent away during the Cultural Revolution. Tell me about that.
I think I was only 8, probably, and I was forced by my parents to study piano. You know, I hated it because I wanted to become an artist, you know, painter. But my parents were musicians, and of course they wanted me to become a pianist. So I hated it. I always practiced the piano in tears. So the Cultural Revolution started, and my piano teacher was in trouble, was sent away, and
you celebrated
to the countryside, and I was so happy.
That's a terrible
celebrated,
thing now,
and I ran out to the courtyard, you know, jumping around, and so that was the end of my piano lessons. So that was.
But the end of piano lessons for a while, but also the start of a very, very tumultuous period for your country and for your family. Tell me about how your family experienced the Cultural Revolution.
My parents were musicians. So my father was a conductor, my mother was a composer, and during the Cultural Revolution period, of course, they were under lots of pressure, and they were sent away to the countryside for a few years. So that day they were leaving, I was helping them to pack. And I found an old record in a freestand old gramophone. And so I told my father. My father came and asked me to play that record. That was the only one record left at home. That was in 1966. My father conducted that piece in 1964 in Beijing. And that was a Beethoven Symphony No. 6, the Pastoral, and that was the last Western symphony piece my father conducted. I found that record, and then my father asked me to play it. That was my first music lesson, and the only one from my father.
It's really incredible when I look at your life, because you mentioned that one moment, that record, playing it, your father being there with you. But there are always these moments that seem to appear in your life. There was another moment, a couple of minutes, that really changed your life forever. Tell me about that.
Oh, yes. That was in 1975, a long time ago. Actually, I was on my bike, had a long, sweaty ride to another side of Beijing and to look for a friend. I was working in a factory in the suburb of Beijing. Life was pretty heavy, heavy work.
And you were a wild man too.
I was wild too.
You were getting
yes.
into fights and you were trouble, right?
Absolutely. I went wild and
Smoking, drinking,
and singing with my guitar, and find an excuse to escape from my work and to have
factory
fun, in the mountains. Anyway, that day was very interesting because I went to the other side of Beijing to look for my friend, and my friend was not home. And a stranger opened a window, and because I was calling my friend outside of the building, "Hey, are you home?" So,
in that sort of voice.
right, and my friend was not home. A stranger opened another window on 4th floor and asked me, "Hey, are you a singer?" And I said, "No." "Why?" He said, "Come up, I want to talk to you."
He was a singer.
He was a professional singer, and he told me, "You have a big voice. You should try, you may have a singing career." Anyway, and then I found a vocal teacher. I started my vocal training. That's a turning point in my life.
Another pivotal moment was when you beat out 500 others in an audition. And that was another moment that moved you forward in this, almost like fate for you, wasn't it?
Absolutely, because during the Cultural Revolution period, the conservatories, universities only opened to the selected students. So 1976 was the first year they opened to the public. Everybody could apply, So the first voice class was the competition was keen because in whole China, they only chose about, I think, 17 singers from whole China.
Wow.
I was so nervous because I wanted to make it because I wanted to leave the factory. So I tried very hard, and I was lucky one.
Not
I
lucky,
made
really.
it.
Not just luck, is it, really?
I was a lucky one.
But you have this gift, and the gift has taken you all around the world. But after getting in there, then the move to the United States, you tried for so long, didn't you?
Yes. It took me about 2 years to get a passport, but it took me only 50 seconds to get a visa. I only had $35 in my pocket.
Wow.
And next day, I spent $8. I bought a standing pass. I went to the Metropolitan Opera in New York. I saw the first opera in my life.
Your first experience.
First experience.
What was it like for you to stand there and see that, experience that?
Oh, when the curtain opened, Pavarotti was standing there in
First
front of
opera
my
and
face.
it's Pavarotti, of course.
Maestro James Levine and conducted the chorus, the stage setting, the lights, the orchestra. I was totally knocked out. This is unbelievable.
And 10 years after you saw Pavarotti,
Right.
you sang with Pavarotti.
Absolutely.
Wow.
10 years
Wow.
later, exactly on that day, and I found a chance to tell Pavarotti about my story in the first break. I grabbed him and said, "Maestro, I want to tell you my story because
I
10
saw
years
you
ago,
10 years ago."
Yes, 10 years ago, I saw, you on this stage, and I only had $35 from Beijing, and I spent $8 to buy a standing pass, and I was very nervous. I spoke very fast, and he was very nice because he took my hand at the end to go out the curtain to bow with me together. I was so touched. I got a call from Beijing, said he was dying. If you want to see him, you better come back immediately because he wouldn't make it.
Talk Asia, in association with Banyan Tree, Sanctuary for the Senses. Awards tell everything. Who won ATW's Airline of the Year? Who won Skytrax Airline of the Year? Who won Global Travelers Airline of the Year? It's the one, the only Golden Grand Slam award-winning airline. A passion for service. Asiana Airlines.
Legal and illegal. How can the US make immigration work?
We do want to be in control of our own destiny. We, at the same time, need immigrants.
What the US can learn from other nations. A Fareed Zakaria special, Making Immigration Work. Saturday, only on CNN, in association with Citi.
Sure. Tonight, first of all, I hope I can finish. I hope I won't forget the words. Thank you. Let's go on stage. 谢谢, 谢谢. Okay, let's go. 哎呀，这老跑调怎么办呢？然后就坐在这儿，对，然后就在这儿弹。I think I'm ready. My voice, my mood, my brain, my body, and also my team. Here we are. Here we are. Yes.
真高兴，他眼睛里都是笑，他那种笑啊，特别真，一点都不做作，还有一点那种腼腆的神情。那是我和我哥第一次面对面、安安静静的、没人打扰的过了3个小时。
When you go to a place like the US and you embark on a career like this, there's so much of your past life that you become disconnected from. What about your relationship with your brother? Because while you were going that way, your brother was leading a very, very different life.
Yeah, my older brother actually was 8 years older than me. Of course, for many years, actually, we didn't have a very close relationships because, you know, I'm living in the States and he was in Beijing with a regular job and regular pay.
You were just worlds apart, really.
Right,
Yeah.
and so he died of liver cancer about 10 years ago. So I got a call from Beijing, and I was singing La Boheme at the Met. I got a call from Beijing, said he was dying. If you want to see him, you better come back immediately, because he wouldn't make it. You know, my brother, I looked down him a little bit. I thought, you know, sometimes I try to help him to start a little business or something, but I thought he was hopeless because he was such a nice man, but simple, very simple. And so I rushed back to Beijing because between two performances, there were only 3 days apart at the Met. So I promised to go back to New York to continue my performance of La Boheme. So I rushed back to Beijing. I spent only 3 hours with him in the hospital. That 3 hours, unforgettable experience, because I think I found my brother again. Through that 3 hours also, I found myself again. We talked a lot about our past, and we sang a lot together, many songs we brought up with. And those songs, you know, each one of them could tell a story.
Wow. Yeah.
And about our experience. And the first time I talked to my brother about my operatic life in the West, and I sang arias for him, and because he never been to my had never been to my opera performances.
So
and
you
my
gave him
concerts.
private performance?
Absolutely. And so since then, I always thought about to put this 3 hours experience on stage. My brother passed away just a week after I visited him. And so I always wanted to put a show together about this experience. So that's what really happened.
Sing, brother, sing.
Now, a one-man show, we just premiered in Beijing, and it's called Sing, Brother, Sing.
Well, it's incredible because when you were telling me that story before about the 3 hours, I could see you were there again. You're reliving it again. So every time you go on stage, you relive that. And that has to be emotionally hard as well as honoring your brother. It's tough for you, yeah?
It's tough for me very much. I mean, it's a very difficult because, I'm opera singer. On stage, I'm always, in another character, a French nobleman and an Italian king and a Spanish high priest and something. But this time, I'm just myself on stage.
In the performance, do you find that you find yourself back home again as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, it's good for me to do this one-man show, Sing Brothers Sing, Sing Brothers Sing, and I could go back to the past. And then that made me think about future, where to go. Yeah.
I can't let you go without at least hearing just a little bit of your beautiful voice. Could you give us a couple of notes?
Living Golf Minute in time with Rolex.
I'm really looking forward to going to Olympic and defending my title. That's another new experience for me, and something that I'm really excited to do.
He's got the monkey off his back right now. It's gone. Now he can go play golf. He doesn't have to worry about having to worry about people saying, well, he's a really good player, but he's never won. I mean, how many young guys are out there right now? You know how many are there that are really good players that have never won. And and then they all of a sudden they get to be 30 and they haven't won. All of a sudden they get to be 35 and all of a sudden they're saying, will I ever win? Well, that's way out of his way. And the next one will come, and it'll come when it's ready to come. I may have to worry about him rather than Tiger.
On World Business Today, we bring you your business world from Hong Kong
to London
and New York, because what's happening today
will affect all of our futures tomorrow.
World Business Today. Check your local listings.
Almost time to go to rehearsal.
I still have time. While you are chopping, there's a secret.
When you put salt on, they don't jump. They're not as messy. For Tian is very messy already.
Really?
But
you don't expect too much from a singer, okay? I think I'm the only one in the world chopping cabbages 20 minutes before rehearsal. So be happy, wife, my darling wife.
It's incredible when I look at your life and see these moments. The moment with your father, the moment with the man who said, you have a good voice. But also your wife, meeting the woman who would become your wife. Tell me about the role that she played in making you believe in yourself.
My wife, actually, of course, is my boss.
Everyone's wife is their boss.
And she's a scientist. She is a wonderful and human geneticist. I met her in China in '82 in Shanghai because she was a visiting scholar from the States and brought up in Hong Kong and went to the States for her education. And so she was on the faculty in Denver in the medical school of CU. I went to University of Denver, so we became very close friends. Of course, falling in love, and later.
And she played piano for you?
Absolutely, and she studied the piano, and she played for me, actually, for my first recital in the States. Martha actually gave up her career as a scientist, early retired, let's say, in 1996, because my singing schedule became very busy and a mess.
But she believed in you, and did that help you to believe that you could make it? Is that what really gave you that sense of purpose and belief?
You know, she really thought I had no other abilities. Seems that I only could sing. So that's that.
You better make the most of it.
Right. What really happened was we were in love, and I was just a poor student and had no major contracts waiting for me outside of the school. So we talked about a marriage a few times, but I couldn't promise anything for her because I couldn't support the family. That was January 1st, 1988. So I said, I told myself, in 2 years, you have to make it.
And you did.
So things start to happen in 1990s. Found an agent in New York. He set up a series of auditions for me, and the major audition was at the Met. So things start to happen. I received my first contract from the Met, and that's for a whole year, 5 operas, paid vacation, the health insurance.
Wow.
And I was in Denver at home. I got this big envelope. I called Martha immediately. I said, Martha, can you come home now? And she said, no, I'm busy at work. I can't. Why? I said, well, we should get married today.
I've got the contract.
She was quiet about a few seconds, and she said, okay, I'll be home in 10 minutes.
When you think of yourself now, you're a singer, you're Chinese, you were born here, but you've lived in the US for such a long time. How would you describe yourself? You Chinese? Are you American? Where do you belong?
I think I'm a mixed person now, because you could tell I'm not that young. I spent my first 29 years in China, second 29 years in the States, and worldwide. Yeah. So I'm really half and half, mixed with Chinese and the Western culture, mixed with Chinese and the Western music.
When you came back, did you ever see that piano teacher?
Piano teacher, actually.
The one that you...
Absolutely. And 30-some years after he was disappeared for 5 years, I came back to Beijing and I found him.
You apologized to him?
I apologized to him. I told him, said, Mr. Zhao, Teacher Zhao, I just want to tell you, and I felt so sorry about your tragedy during that period. And I just want to tell you, because I was so happy when you were in trouble. I couldn't understand your tragedy. That was, how terrible for you in your life during that period.
What did he say to you?
I celebrated, and I was running around and to celebrate your tragedy on your tragedy.
And he forgave you?
He was in tears. He was in tears, and he told me, he said, well, that was a very difficult period for everybody. It was hard to say who was right, who was wrong, and everybody was under huge pressure, and I forgive you because you were only
a boy,
10 years old.
Yeah. And of course, from that moment, your life really took off. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you, but I can't let you go without at least hearing just a little bit of your beautiful voice. Could you give us a couple of notes from your anything a favourite of yours?
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen, down the mountainside. The summer's gone, and all the flowers are dying. It's you must go, and I must buy.